I want to start with, with just a little bit of good news. It appears, as of this week, that Virginia, after about a 4-year long struggle, will be ultimately voting to expand Medicaid. This is going to make Medicaid eligible to 400,000 people in Virginia.
Wow.
And this is all, of course, a function of those special elections that we had. I don't know. It was a month ago. I can't, time is basically collapsed for me, but maybe it was 2 months ago. Could have been three. But where the Democrats did significantly better than they had anticipated. They have the House. They nearly took the Senate, but it was close enough that a couple of Republicans felt the pressure and voted to expand Medicaid. And of course, the Democrat won the governorship as well, and so that's going to happen. And I think it's something that we should celebrate. It's great for 400,000 people to get expansion of Medicaid. I've always said of the three parts of the Affordable Care Act, the affordable part was actually the least delivered of the promises. But the full name was the Affordable Care Act and Affordable Care and Patient Protection Act. The patient protections are there. We now have health insurance that when we get it, we know it can't be taken from us because we get sick. It can't be, we can't be denied because of pre-existing conditions. There's a whole host of regulations that make sure that it's good health insurance. And of course, the third part was, and to me, the most effective, at least in delivering what its promise was the, to the extent that Republican states allowed it, was the expansion of Medicaid. And so it really does show that elections matter. These statewide elections that people don't pay that much attention to, it's a big deal for 400,000 people in Virginia now. And so I just wanted to note that we could use every bit of happy news that we could get. I should also add that in Utah, we're going to see medical marijuana on the ballot as well as the expansion of Medicaid. So in this narrow lane, some good things happening.
Well, and I think it's really significant because, when they ask people, about which issues they care about, healthcare is still very much at the top of the list. I mean, and I don't think that's just sort of a reflexive, we care about healthcare. I mean, this is the animating issue on the Democratic side, and it's the one, and I think it's now gone beyond the protection of the Affordable Care Act, which was big, and I think people still feel that way. But because you're seeing this stuff like in red states, like Utah, where they actually managed to get this on the ballot, we don't know if it will pass, but the fact that they would even get that far shows that this sort of march toward, and I don't know how long it will take, but a march toward a truly universal guaranteed health care for everyone. And whether that's single payer or some kind of, growth of Medicaid on one end and Medicare on the other or whatever. But somehow that is happening, and the Democrats certainly are running on it. And I'm actually very optimistic about this because I feel like if you can get through the Trump era, somehow, with this thing intact, I mean, he's such a wrecking crew on everything, that if this one thing, which is still pretty new, is surviving, beyond all hope, that there is hope that we're moving, maybe faster than I thought it would happen toward a truly guaranteed health care system that these people cannot come in and take away, that it's not going to happen. So, I feel good about that, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I think it's important that people recognize that somehow or another on issues that matter to people, some good things are happening, around the country.
It's interesting because I spoke to Eric Levitz in this program about a piece that he wrote that touches on and I don't want to overstate this because I don't think a lot of people are engaged in this fight, but there is an argument on the I guess, I don't know what to refer to it. It's not the blogosphere anymore, but in the center to the left intelligentsia, I guess, as to what the nature of the resistance is, and to what extent it's ideological, to what extent it is about returning norms, and whether or not you would even want that. And we could touch on that for a moment, but one of the elements of this that I think is indicative, despite the fact that that debate is going on, when you get out there and you hear about the campaigns that are being waged for the House in 2018, healthcare, like you say, is a prominent part of the campaign for a lot of these people. And there is a whole host of ideas about what to do about healthcare.
Yeah.
That runs from essentially the Affordable Care Act and how to improve it, incrementally, all the way through to a single payer that's being discussed out there. And the disadvantage the Republicans have is that they have no ideas. And even if they did, who would believe them at this point, right? They voted 65 times to repeal Obamacare, and they couldn't even do it. So this seems to me to be a really both a good sign politically and in terms of policy that people running for the House on the Democratic side are engaged in this issue.
Absolutely. And I think as to, the Eric Levitt's piece, I read that too and have read some of the discussion going on around it. And, I tend to always be, as a resistance person, my priority is, stop Trump, just please, let's stop him and we will regroup and figure out the rest of it. But he has to be stopped. However, part of that stopping Trump is stopping what he's doing, right? And healthcare is one of the things that the Democrats, were able to actually put together a program that the Republicans, under Trump and any other Republican, they all ran on repealing it, right? That they couldn't do. So this is an actual, this is a success. And so Democrats running on that and running on, we have the success, let's build on top of that, we can do things, we can actually make things work for you, I think is a very, very, that's the flip side of the stopping Trump, right? I mean, that's the
right.
sort of saying this is where we win. And so I don't think it's an either or, I really don't. I mean, I honestly believe it. In fact, in that study or poll they did on what people care about, for Democrats, number one was health care, number two was Trump, right? So, and they were pretty close. So did they work together? They're both, there's the negative campaign side of, and I wouldn't even call it negative, but it's the
right.
resistance side. And then
the
there's
reactive one and the proactive
right.
one.
And
well, all right, let's
together.
take a break. Let's take a break. We could talk a little bit more about this on the other side. Also, we got to talk about North Korea. At least, secret meeting this week. Maybe they're talking about denuclearization. Maybe they're just talking about opening up some fast food restaurants. I'm not joking. We got to take a quick break. I'll be right back. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio. We're talking to the great Heather Parton.